Well, hello, that's me again. Today is May 1st, 2024. It is a hump day, it's Wednesday, and it is the International Day of the Solidarity of all workers of the world. At least that's how this May 1st holiday was celebrated in Russia, for example. Well, some people still celebrate it today. I know there is something like 20,000 people in France trying to demonstrate and, defend their rights. Good luck with that. But the point is that eventually this basically, as it was with the another communist holiday of the 8th of March, International Women's Day, it turned out to be simply in the spring holiday. And in Soviet Union, May 1st, guess what? You go to demonstration, wave your flags, and then go to the shish kebabs and barbecues and all kinds of things. Just celebrate the things, have fun with it. Well, obviously, after that comes a very important holiday for Russians, which probably will stay forever in the history. It's, of course, May 9th, the Victory Day. But this year, the Victory Day came a little bit earlier to Moscow, obviously, because finally there Western tanks made it to Moscow, as you can see yourself, and they are paraded there. Well, not in a good shape or form, so to speak. Look at the conditions of this Abrams tank, which was destroyed by the Cornet, and Cornet simply devastated it. But so, yeah, you know what, very few things can, survive Cornet, if any, really. Then, of course, we have the situation of the demonstration of all those equipment, and you can see yourself, Russians being Russians in this case, they put this announcement there, attention for the personnel of the embassies of the United States, Great Britain, Germany, France, and Poland. They can go ahead of the line for the viewing of this trophy equipment of the NATO countries. So there you go, they are a privileged group now, and they are allowed to observe their equipment being completely devastated by Russian special military operation. Of course, there is another meme coming now. That's how they probably Western public will be portrayed for Western public, how Russians, show the trophies of NATO, washing machines, toilet bowls. So, and yeah, it's it cannot become more humiliating when the world begins to laugh at you. This is the last stage of the decomposition of your enemy, when you begin to be laughed at and just to demonstrate to you. And this is very important. This has been expected. And fact is, I am on the record, I demonstrated it many times. It's been in Russian media all over the place. As you can see yourself, here we have yesterday that the armed forces of Ukraine shelled Crimea with the ATACMS missiles. So yes, the ATACMS has been present in armed forces of Ukraine for months now. They have been already shut down many times, but guess what? So now they, basically one of the top officials of the Crimea talks about that, in his Telegram channel, and that was reported by most of the Russian news, that pointed out that Ukrainian militants used several ATACMS ballistic missiles to strike Crimea. Before the attack, an alarm was announced on the peninsula, and the Crimean bridge was the traffic was stopped for 45 minutes. The Russian air defense system worked over Jankoy and Simferopol, repelling all the missiles of the armed forces of Ukraine. Yes, they have been shut down, including their cluster munition version, and some cluster munitions actually fell to the ground, so the sappers have to now I'm pretty sure they're already done with this, to disable them. So, and when you thought that, yeah, it's official statement, Russians did it before, you have suddenly this. As you can see yourself, Mr. Kirby, he wouldn't know the difference between ballistic and cruise missiles, and the White House did not admit that Russia shot down 6 Ukrainian ATACMS missiles. And earlier, the Russian Ministry of Defense reported that the Russian armed forces shut down those 6 US-made ATACMS. But of course, Mr. Kirby, for some reason, he's called the coordinator of strategic communications. He's merely the talking head at the US National Security Council, denies that the Russian military shot down 6 Ukrainian ATACMS missiles made by the United States. Yes, obviously, when you look going back to this, how to say, parading of the what, all this equipment. So obviously they have to deny it now, because this is humiliation. This is rubbing salt into the wound. But again, they shouldn't have done it in the first place, and that would spare them from the embarrassment and exposition of the United States as rather not impressive militarily. And here comes this very important moment. I am on the record for not just months, for many years. I spoke about this constantly and wrote, as you know, 4 books. There is nothing there out there in the world, literally, which can touch Russian air defense. It doesn't mean that it's perfect. As I already stated, Mr. Putin already stated that, yeah, overall effectiveness is about 95%, which is still stunning. Obviously, you get leaker once in a while, leaker being, of course, projectile or missile, what have you, which breaks through the defense and, makes some damage, damages something, including the, obviously, civilian objects. And some people say that actually the NATO generals are directly responsible for planning the strikes on Russian civilian objects, which I totally believe. And this is just another demonstration and manifestation of the impotent rage which they have, because obviously they are not a professional military which can fight the modern 21st century war. But we have recently, about a week ago, well, actually 8 days ago, the interesting article in TASS. It's an expose on the Russian air defense, which, of course, as you know, Mr. Kirby says that Russians didn't shoot down those 6 ATACMS missiles, which they did. But hey, as I already stated, they probably now say that this Abrams, actually not probably, this is what they stated. I believe it was Mr. Stoltenberg who said, because you know what, you don't call this NATO equipment, because all those Abrams and Leopard 2s and what have you, they are Ukrainian now. Sure, this shows you actually the level of those people. But look at this. The TASS, this is a major in one of the most important media of the Russian Federation, made the expose by talking to Mr. Druzin. And Mr. Druzin, as you can see yourself, it's 22nd April, he's Deputy General Director for Scientific and Technical Development and first Deputy General Designer of the concern, which is huge corporation of Almaz Antey. It is legendary Almaz Antey, which makes those systems such as S-400, and he basically gives, it's a very large article, you can easily find it on the TASS, and I believe, I'm not sure that it has in the English version, but you can go to Russian version and it will translate it through Google Translate. And Druzin talks about all kinds of their missiles, so to speak. And obviously we will skip here the issue of the history, for example, going back to the S-75 complex, which is called Dvina. But look at this. He is giving you a little bit of the introspective, including actually with the CEO of Almaz Antey, about number of the developments through their actually special military operation. And here he talks about famous Tor M2, and he tells that in the first months of hostilities, the Tor M2 software was quickly updated to work on such modern UAVs that move quickly, change, in fact, glide angles, and can evade anti-missiles. That is, they are controlled quite clearly, have secure control and communications channels. This is was stated by Alexander Mikhailov. And obviously this problem has been been addressed, and now we have the reports of the extreme efficiency of Russian electronic countermeasures. But he is talking about the issue of the Tor M2 capable to shoot down, and he talks about same applies to the projectiles of HIMARS multiple launch rocket systems, which appeared in the enemy possessions and which can fly at transonic speeds and an altitude of about 20 kilometers. In their kill zone, they were intercepted by Thor. And if they flew higher, they were intercepted by Buk M2 and, of course, state-of-the-art Buk M3, that is medium-range system. The expert said, also mentioning such targets of Russian anti-aircraft gunners as Western JDAM and ASM Hammer glide bombs. So Russians do intercept them quite successfully, and then he goes and talks about this Taurus missile, and they talk about all other, Scalp and Storm Shadow type thing, and that's what they say, that, the Taurus is nothing more than a good rocket, and in our opinion, there is nothing extraordinary and terrible. This is an ordinary cruise missile, a good cruise missile, I must say, but no more than that. These missiles do not pose any problems for the equipment we supply, says the Deputy General Designer of Almaz Antey, adding that both ATACMS missiles and HIMARS shells discussed above do not pose any difficulty for Russian medium and long-range complexes. This is the fact which Mr. Kirby and very many people in Washington cannot live with, especially against the background of a catastrophic failure of the best they have in terms of air defense against, obviously, Iranian strikes on Israel, where Iran easily using it's actually not the newest ballistic missiles and some hypersonic glide vehicles broke through. And the specialists called them typical targets of Russian air defense systems. If the enemy has Taurus missiles, nothing will fundamentally change on the battlefield. And here he mentions, all kinds of those air defense complexes which work on this. And again, make no mistake, it's not 100%. Nothing could be 100% proof, but it is an extremely high level of the combat efficiency. And here we have, and he talks a little bit about, obviously, S-350. Called Vitis, which is night in Russian, and he is talking about the Vitis against a massive raid. Why the S-350 Vitis system, which has 12 missile systems in one launcher, is so effective. And many people noted how this system really closed the gap. I mean, it's middle range, and as he talks about the system, all this shows us to say the complex significantly expands the effectiveness of S-400 systems in terms of repelling massive raids, because it operates in conjunction with such systems as S-400. Of course, you know this system by other name, Polymer Redoute. And the Polymer Redoute, as you can see yourself, for ISA, actively electronically scanned radar plates. And as you can see yourself, just behind the main gun, you can see yourself the VLS, vertical launch systems of this Polymer Redoute, which is an extraordinarily effective system which already demonstrated itself on the battlefields of the special military operation, and it's in the mass production, as you can see yourself. This is how it looks in its ground version, including its launch vehicles, and of course its radar and the command and control center, which are well, let's take a look at what, for example, U.S. Army talks about in terms of on the U.S. Army recognition guide, what they talk about S-350 Vitis. It's called, the full name of it is S-350E Vitis 50R6 missile system. It consists of this four sort of vehicles, and one of them is command and control post, and of course 50 N6A multifunctional radar. And we have also, in terms of the launch vehicles, you saw yourself, relay station track, for obviously you need the communications, you need all data links. And they talk about that basically the basic battery is 48 weapons loaded in it, and as you can see yourself, per this radar. This is a very interesting radar. It's the roof-mounted MFM-TR X-band phased array radar of the fire control system. Can detect and track up to 40 targets simultaneously and engage 8 of them, typically using 2 missiles per target to ensure a high kill probability. With full electronics scanning mode, it has the it's actually static. It has the deflection of the plus minus, which is 90 degrees in elevation and bearing. It covers pretty much everything you need to cover when you operate this system. And when you look at the missiles which go in there, you can see yourself. I picked it up from the Wikipedia, and there has to be explanation of something here which is not necessarily, how to put it polite, pure or prudent, if you wish. So the main missile, obviously, of the 9M96E2, and they call it the speed of 1800 meters per second, which is almost Mach 6. Yes, it is hypersonic, pardon me, air defense missile, but it also can kill the targets which go pretty much pushing the hypersonic envelope, which, for example, NATO doesn't have anything close to it. And what is the other thing which is really important? It's 9M100. It's a short range. It's completely shoot and forget with the active radar homing device and infrared. So, and how to put it politely, these are deadly missiles, and as you can see yourself, it pretty much covers all spectrum, the all, so to speak, remote middle range zone, immediate middle range zone, and short range zone. That's what VTS does, although, as you can see yourself, if you will take a look at it, 9M96E2 also is part of the weapon suite of the S-400. So, and how to put it politely, this system demonstrated itself, presented itself extremely well. And that's obviously contributes to this extraordinary effectiveness of Russian air defense systems, which is 95%, which Mr. Putin stated. I don't have to go over it. And what can I say? We do not know what is being cooked right now by Almaz Antey. And I remember when late Mr. Zhirinovsky, a famous, how to put it politely, court jester, though, a very smart man, though, but a very scandalous and, flamboyant man. He, a few years back, a couple of years before his death, he was talking about, yeah, you saw S-500, wait until we will deploy S-700. And it was, stated in jest, but obviously it's created a panic in some Western media when they started, what the hell is S-700? He was probably joking, but fact is, now when you look attentively at how this air defense systems are being deployed in Russia, it becomes really kind of, maybe he wasn't joking after that. What's next? Yeah, next is the fully capable systems capable to operate completely in the space, and who knows what else, obviously. So, I don't know. A lot depends on the signal processing and the way this detection and tracking systems are developed. But we can understand now that it is pretty serious. So, and if that hasn't been enough, now, how to put politely, I feel hurt, if you wish. Because, you know what, finally somebody read this book. You remember this book? I wrote it actually almost 4 years ago. And before that, obviously, I wrote other books which pretty much are in the same vein. And for me, it was like, yeah, what can I say? We have this situation which is described in this disintegration book. And of course, if you read Dmitry Orlov, obviously with his excellent collapse books, they all kind of revolve around the same issue, which suddenly yesterday, none other than David Ignatius in Washington Post, he complains, is the sun slowly setting on US power? Well, that depends on us. Well, what can I say? It's actually doesn't, is not setting sadly slowly. It's setting very fast. And that's what I was writing for many years, including in my blog for 10 years. But here's what well, I'm sorry, it wasn't yesterday, it was April 26th. So Ignatius says that the United States might be stumbling toward the decline from which few great powers have ever recovered. It has many of the tools of national recovery, but it doesn't yet have a shared recognition of the problem and how to fix it. That's not a quote from MAGA or Progressive Leaflet. It's a summary of a startling new study by Rand. Well, I mean, yeah, well, good for Rand, but I didn't need Rand, for example, when I was writing about for many years. Neither did Dmitry Orlov. It was all predicted. And yes, I agree, United States has tools. The problem is, and let's go to see what Ignatius has to say, and then we will elaborate a little bit. He's talking about this Rand study. Well, I guess Rand reads my books too, I guess. Wink, wink. What has led to their relative decline in U.S. standing, as the report asks? The opening chapter explains America's problem starkly. Its competitive position is threatened both from within, in terms of slowing productivity growth, an aging population, a polarized political system, and an increasingly corrupted informational environment. Well, yeah, we know that. And outside, in terms of a rising direct challenge from China and declining deference to U.S. power from dozens of developing nations. Yeah, nobody's quaking in their boots from the United States. Ask Houthis, they will tell you how to deal with that. This decline is accelerating, warns the study. Well, it is accelerating, and fact is, the question now, if one considers their political, so to speak, distribution of forces, while the United States definitely has their tools to kind of reverse it, the problem is, do we have political force to do it? And again, here comes this question, which nobody in Rand can explain. Neither can, let alone, I mean, some, nincompoop like Ignatius or anybody who works for New York Times, Washington Post, or what have you. They do not even understand what great power is. I will remind you there a good old expression by some French, lapdog. He passes for philosopher somehow. He gave the definition to the United States about probably 15 years ago as hyperpower. And guess what? This definition was based upon the simple fact. They, for some reason, thought that the United States can actually project power globally any way it wants. Obviously, it's a complete garbage, because the United States can project power only against the third world crap hole with the air defense and weapons circa American Civil War. But as Houthis demonstrated, yeah, they can project whatever they want, but once you get into the new technical paradigm, which is, of course, it's missile exchange paradigm, and you have the advanced weapon systems, things change. And these are Houthis, mind you. This is Yemen. It is extremely, poor and, not very little country which was suffering from the crime committed against it by Saudi Arabia with the support of the United States. So if you're talking about power projection, I don't think so. United States can really project power, unless, of course, you have the ideal conditions, such as was in the 1990 and 1991 during the first Gulf War, when the whole community, including the Soviet Union, consented to, yeah, let's do it, just go at it. But the question, obviously, today is completely different. We are looking at the new technological paradigm, of which I speak and write non-stop. And when you look at this, what do they mean by the definition of the great power? Is the United States great power? Oh, absolutely, United States is great power. For starters, United States is a major second nuclear arsenal in the world. We don't know how effective it is, and if it still works, at least some of it certainly works. So, and United States can still produce, some ships. It can produce, well, looks like they built Virginias. So, yeah, that's a decent, submarine force. But the problem is in the Clockwork Orange. And I'm not talking about the Orange Man, obviously, and I'm not referring to the famous movie by the famous book. But truth is, United States is a completely torn nation right now. It's coming apart at the seams, and at least that's what Hollywood and those prostitutes from the U.S. media want us to believe. But reality, of course, is that economically, United States nowhere near where it pretended to be, because obviously, financial capitalism is not really capitalism. It's basically the Ponzi scheme. It is about creating the bubbles of nothing. Really nothing. I mean, just they covered in dollars, but they produce nothing. And we have a complete collapse of the morality and complete collapse of the United States education across the board, from the high schools to kindergartens, where they preach all this woke ideology. We have basically the generation which is growing up, which will have huge issues with the cognitive dissonance, gender confusion, which will bring inevitably all kinds of the psychiatric disorders. And we already see some of the psychiatric disorders manifesting themselves on the massive scale. Look at Hollywood. There is a pervert upon pervert there. Same goes to Washington. And when you look at these people, yeah, they are basically destroying the United States. United States first. It never was a hyperpower to start with. And it used for 20 years, the moment when the Soviet Union abdicated due to its own stupidity and trusting the combined West. But that's about it. And you see now how this self-doubt is beginning to manifest itself, even in Washington Post, by all those, cheerleaders for American hegemony. There is no American hegemony, except for the blackmailing through the international institution, ranging from United Nations to International Olympic Committee to International Monetary Fund to all kinds of things like that. That's the only thing United States can do. But throughout the history, great power was defined by the winning record in wars. And I'm talking of wars, not defeating some third-rate power, which, has the GDP, which is smaller than that of the New York City, albeit who knows now where that goes. And in this particular case, when you look at this, and now you can see all those demonstrations of this equipment of the NATO captured, destroyed, and that's the result. And guess what? These are the sides which gonna speak louder than any words, and they are already speaking. And that is why Kirby behaves itself like the, petulant child. Well, probably he is. And people deny obvious facts, but we know what is happening, right? Robotin already has the Russian flag waving at it. Another 3 villages have been captured, and Russians just roll to the west. And yesterday, pretty much most of the command south of the armed forces of Ukraine, we don't know how many NATO officers were there. They have been eliminated. Well, those pesky Iskanders and those pesky Patriots which do not work. And that's just the part of it. In Odessa yesterday, because of the delivery of those systems, the whole basically quarter has been cordoned off, and a huge number of the ambulances have been noted in the place. They say they lost 3 people. Well, sure. We know that they shoot down every single Russian missile, right? So, and that's the situation. And now on the May 1st, what can I say? There is a demonstration, yes. Not this peaceful demonstration celebrating the Labor Day. No, it's the demonstration of the defeated best technology which NATO could supply. And that's it. And that's everything you need to see, and the world is seeing it. And after that, as Mr. Nebenza reiterated today, Mr. Nebenza being the permanent representative of Russia in the United Nations Security Council, he stated that, again, he reiterated second time that very, very soon, the only thing we're going to be discussing is unconditional surrender. Period. And yes, this is how you do it. You win on the battlefield. Compare Russia's war record with that of the United States. And this is what I wanted to tell you today, guys. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel. And those who can afford, please support me on Patreon, on Buy Me and Coffee, and too. I will put it to the good use. And as always, my profound thanks to my wonderful patrons. And guys, have a nice rest of the week, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.